Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said one of the more stunning piles of bullshit that I've seen come out of his mouth over the past month. In a new message, Vladimir Zelensky says that Ukraine, if only Ukraine had access to more weapons, this war would be over. He said this in an interview last night. And I couldn't believe this story when I saw it. He said that President Biden, and this comes at a time when President Biden has last week offered up another round of military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. He's sending missiles. It includes helicopters, artillery, ammunition, Humvees, Javelin missiles. The list is endless. This is on top of the $10 billion we've already sent, and on top of all of the NATO training and all of the weapons that currently exist inside of Ukraine.
I mean, you cannot say that you are an advocate for peace and say we could have peace if we just had more guns, right? That's just the stupidest thing. But that's what he wants. Now, meanwhile, U.S. officials are admitting that they have no way to account for all of the weaponry that is being shipped inside the United States. And we are honestly into Ukraine. And we are quite honestly losing track. Every time Congress meets, they are just opening their checkbook and opening the cabinetry for whatever arsenal, whatever we've got in the arsenal. Now, the U.S. has said that they really don't know exactly what's happening to all of these. And here's why. They say it's because of the lack of boots on the ground. So there's no you never heard of RFID tracking? You've never heard of you really can't control the supply chain?
No, and
interesting.
By the way,
but when they say, yes, we are sending a lot of weapons in there, we cannot necessarily keep track of them. But here's a quote from the CNN article. It's a conscious risk the Biden administration is willing to take.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, we should point out that this report, this bombshell report, there's no other way to sugarcoat this. This is a bombshell report, came from frickin' CNN.
Yeah.
CNN of all places. I mean, talk about manufacturing consent for war. It's CNN is the place you do it, right? If you want to get the American people behind a new war that we are going to spend billions of dollars on, you go to CNN or MSNBC.
What do you think is the take here? Because maybe we read it differently. Because I do feel like it's written in a tone of this is unacceptable.
Okay, let's not opine. Let's put it up on the screen. Here's the article. Here's the bombshell report from CNN. What happens to weapons sent to Ukraine? The U.S. doesn't really know. And let me pull a quote from the article. We have fidelity for a short time, but when it enters the fog of war, we have almost zero, said one source briefed on U.S. intelligence. It drops into a big black hole, and you have almost no sense of it all after a short period of time. So that's you let us know in the chat. Drop a comment below. The U.S. is sending billions of dollars in weapons. And they're sending them, by the way, to Nazis in the Azov battalion, by the way, who we've shown you the videos over the past few days of these Nazis with U.S. military equipment. So we're fine to send it to them. They also have American Humvees, Javelin missiles. The list is endless. And now we have no accounting of where this stuff ends up going or how it's being used.
The thing is,
my take on it, I do want to hear what you have to say. It is that CNN is presenting this as something that is not desirable. Okay. I don't think that CNN is making excuses.
Yeah.
Please, Philip, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, so this is not new information. The military knows that when you send weapons into an area, you don't know what happens to them because they know this is true. And they want to send more weapons there. So it's not that they don't know where these weapons are going. It's that they don't care where these weapons are going.
Yes.
Because if you already know that you can't track it when you send it there and you want to send more, that's just willful ignorance. You're just like,
okay.
Oh, we don't care.
I have a few questions about that. These are just maybe ignorant questions, but allow me to ask them. Number one, is that par for the course? Anyone who has military experience, right? Because when we think of the military, we think of this sort of super organized, runs all the trains are always on time. We even have a time for it, military time, right? So we think of this organization as a hyper organized body, but then we ship things out and we don't know where they go. Okay, that's sort of antithetical to the reputation. So is this normally how it happens in war, or is there no other way to keep track of your weaponry? Of course, there are things like I can put an air tag on something and track it. There are many ways to ship something. You can track your lost luggage nowadays. There's the problem with that is that those things can be hacked or exploited by enemies. But this is not an unsolvable problem when it comes to technology and logistics.
No, let's go back to something Philip kind of mentioned offhandedly. They don't care. And the reason they don't care is because they're making so much freaking money off of it. The military-industrial complex makes so much money off of it that they don't give a rat's ass where it goes because it needs to be replenished. I mean, we saw this article. We didn't cover this on the show. Bloomberg had a piece just the other day with this piece by Hal Brands. Ukraine war is depleting America's arsenal of democracy. Western allies face a choice. Send more weapons to Kyiv or save their stockpiles for their own defense. It's depleting our arsenal of democracy. That's what we are. A force for good. We will shove our boot up your ass. We will shove it up there with a missile. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was just going to say, it's just a convenient problem for them to have, too, isn't it? That we can't track our missiles. Like, how convenient. It's like,
right.
Well, we'll just keep making them until we run out of materials because we don't keep track of how many we have. We just make sure we have as many as we need.
Shar Darling so great. Let me just finish this tweet here real quick, Philip, and then Shar Darling says, once again, if you are saying you stand with Ukraine, you are not standing with the Ukrainian people at all, but rather with the Azov Battalion, the Pentagon, and Raytheon. So it's very, like on this show, of course, we stand with the Ukrainian people. I stand with the Kenyan people. I stand with all people.
The Russian people.
The Russian people. I stand with people, right?
We stand with American people
like
who did not create this on their own.
As Bane said in The Dark Knight Rises, the good people of Gotham. For you, the people. That's who we stand for on this show, right? So when you say you stand for the Ukrainian people, you're not really standing for the Ukrainian people. What you're standing for are these warmongers who are making endless dollars off of this proxy war. Philip, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, to answer Natalie's question, like yes, we do know, like, this is how it goes. And if you look back at, like, in Iraq, when the U.S. pulled out of Iraq, we left behind a whole bunch of equipment for the Iraqi military. Yes. Then when ISIS overran them, the military just abandoned that equipment, and then suddenly it's in the hand of an enemy of the United States. And it's like at that point, we don't know who has what because it was all stockpiled in various places in Iraq and then basically seized by an enemy. And so this is just sort of like this has happened in Afghanistan with the Mujahideen, like with the arming, like in the Iran-Contra affair. Like, yeah, we know, and we've known for a long time that this is what happens when we pump arms into an area and we don't take them back.
Yes, well, we were told because this argument was coming when we left Afghanistan without much prep work that, well, we are leaving behind equipment, but we're modding it out so that it can't be I didn't use that term, right? Like
we're taking the carburetors, basically. Yeah.
Right. And nobody will be able to fix this. So we were supposed to sort of fall for that. But this is a different story. We're sending our best, right? But we don't know. And another thing is, like, if we are lending them money and giving them equipment, right? But we don't care. Like, there's no collateral on this. There's no, like, return it. We'll sort of give you a credit based on some kind of
no, we don't care.
What's the word I'm looking for? Depreciation of the asset. How does a bomb depreciate? Right. This is, and this, you can say, you can take this story and you can put it away from you because it is across a continent. Mm-hmm. But you can't put it away from you in terms of, like, you just paid your taxes this week. This is what your taxes are going to, buying up weaponry that we do not account for and will leave and then, like, replenish the stock, right? And so we have a clip here from the CEO of Raytheon saying, business is booming.
Yeah. Listen to the CEO of Raytheon.
Apology for that. I think, again, recognizing, we are there to defend democracy. And the fact is, eventually, we will see some benefit in the business over time. Everything that's being shipped into Ukraine today, of course, is coming out of stockpiles, either at DOD or from our NATO allies. And that's all great news. Eventually, we'll have to replenish it, and we will see a benefit to the business over the next coming years.
Yeah. So let me just be clear about this. That's the CEO of Raytheon, who was asked a question by a journalist. He's basically saying, hey, you want to clarify, you've had some criticism over some comments recently about that your business is doing really well thanks to the Ukrainian war. Do you care to qualify that or to clarify your position on that? And he doubles down. It's like, oh yeah, all those stockpiles that are at the DOD, they're being sent over, and then they're going to call us to replenish them, and it's great for business.
Can you call up his shot? Is he in the metaverse? Or
No, I
is that
wondered
a
where he
real
was
place?
too. I'm like, is this your office? Like, what is this? Like,
Apology for that.
Yeah.
I think again,
It does look
recognize-
like the Mark Zuckerberg demo of the metaverse.
Right.
Like, that can't be a real place.
that's your desk? You have nothing?
I don't know.
Like,
The,
man,
tree,
no
the tree in the
color.
background looks real, so
yeah.
Well,
is,
and
is
you
there,
know what
is there a war on? You can't even afford a computer on your desk? I mean, you know.
You know what I
he
noticed?
just shoved all the laundry off of it 5 seconds.
What I
before
found
the-
kind of funny, well, not funny. I don't want to say this is funny, but ever since the interview with Brett Baer, where Zelensky was like, you know, for the Azov battalion, they are what they are, right? He's like, they are what they are, because they're Nazis, okay?
They're Nazis,
period.
yeah.
And I've noticed in articles now when I'm reading about them, they're calling them the Azov Volunteer Battalion.
Oh,
So
sure.
I think it's like they're trying to make it like, well, they're not officially fighting for Ukraine. They're volunteers.
Right.
Well, because Nazis don't draft.
Right.
Meanwhile, like the truth about the Azov Battalion, the truth about them is that, in fact, it's not just a small little fringe group at all. In fact, if you understand and you do the research and the studying of them, they were basically dispersed at all levels of the Ukrainian military. They are not some little fringe, there's 10 guys wearing Nazi paraphernalia. No. They run the show. They are at all levels of the Ukrainian military. And that's the real secret that they don't want you to know about. They don't want you to hear about this. The Western media certainly doesn't want to talk about it. And by the way, this was up until February of this year. This was exactly what the U.S. And international media covered in Ukraine. This was the news up until February of this year. Okay, look at this. I'll start at the top. Western media before 2022, February 2022. Ukraine celebrates Nazi collaborator, bans book critical of pogrom's leader. Far-right fighters from Europe fight for Ukraine. Ukraine designates national holiday to commemorate Nazi collaborators. Look at all of these headlines from Western media sources covering the far-right massacres, the white power warriors. I mean, all of it. Now, boom, as soon as war breaks out,
They're heroes.
don't say a word
Well,
about
Right.
these guys.
except
Don't say
it was so like I was watching an MSNBC coverage and they're showing these soldiers out training regular citizens. Like they've got grandmas and kids with AK-47s or whatever.
Right.
And they didn't even think to show or to figure out that the guys that were doing the training had the SS symbol on their sleeves.
Right. Yeah, you can't mention that. And you can't mention that. If you call it out, then that's just misinformation. It's disinformation. Then you're a Putin apologist. And then it shuts down all conversation. But meanwhile, I'll come back to this quote. I was trying to dig for this quote earlier. This is the Zelensky quote asking for more money, more weapons. If we had access to all the weapons we need, which our partners have and which are comparable to the weapons used by the Russian Federation, we would have already ended this war. And as Noam Chomsky says, no, it's going to end with one of these countries being destroyed. And I'm going to tell you right now,
It's not going to be
It's not going to be Russia. And so the only other way to end this war is a settled
peace talk. Is an
That's it.
actual talk, not guns.
And that's not happening because we have an arsenal of democracy that we need to deplete with weapons. We can't keep track of them. We have
Where are
no
the
idea
Kennedys
where these
when we
weapons
need them?
are. Yeah, where's JFK when we need him?
We can't make money off talks unless we somehow figure out if Raytheon can copyright certain words for negotiation.
Right. Jimmy Carter's still alive. He seemed to have a way with words.
But I just can't get over this Raytheon CEO. I mean, Greg Hayes. I mean, everything that's being shipped in Ukraine today, of course, is coming out of stockpiles. And that's all great news. We'll have to replenish this. I love this meme today. War. Who is it good for? Lockheed Martin, Halliburton, Boeing, Raytheon. Support our brave CEOs. Don't question wars. I'm gonna hang this up in my
That's
office.
so patriotic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is amazing. This is where we're at right now in this war.